All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to have you guys join me this afternoon. I am going to try to keep this right at 30 minutes because I promised I would, and I know you guys' time is valuable, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. But if anybody has any additional questions or anything specific, please feel free to stop me, or you can put it in the chat box, or I'm happy to set up more specific meetings. I have time to do meetings all this week, virtual meetings, so we can get back together and talk about individual needs if we need to, if you have any questions. Here we go. So I'm sure that all of you in the meeting have in some way felt the effects of the global epidemic. This is right in my way. Of the global epidemic that is currently going on. Many businesses, including our own, have suddenly been forced to make a sudden shift to having parts or all of their office make a shift to remote work. And as our representatives have been checking in with a lot of our copier customers across Eastern North Carolina, many of them have been voicing some of the same concerns. How can we duplicate our normal workflow in a remote working environment? So that's kind of why I wanted to put a webinar together to host, to talk about some of the more robust options for document management. This is a situation that no business could have possibly predicted, and many people were very unprepared for. I've spoken with many different businesses in regards to this issue, and a lot of them are citing some of the same challenges, which I've listed here. Team collaboration and approvals can become really difficult during this time. It's not easy when you can't just walk down the office to a coworker's cubicle or desk and collaborate on a document with them. Same thing kind of goes for approvals. When you would normally be able to have somebody just bring you a sheet of paper or go have your boss sign off on something, that's something that just doesn't exist in the same way in a remote environment. And by virtue of that, people's normal work processes are just disrupted. There's also a lack of your normal office equipment, your copiers, your scanners, your printers. Some people may have access to some of those things in their homes, but a lot of people don't have any of that. And so they're wondering, how am I going to duplicate my work process without the equipment that I'm used to working with? And then, of course, there's time management, distractions, things of that nature, and just keeping track of the tasks that you have at hand that you need to get done during a day. As much as we'd all like to say that we sit at home and can work without distraction, there's kids, there's pets, there's the laundry, the cleaning, and it's really easy to lose track of the things that you need to get done when you're trying to work from home. So I've talked to a lot of the different businesses that we service and asked some of them how in the short term they're managing their documents. And I've gotten a lot of responses like Microsoft Teams, Dropbox, Google Drive, email, DocuSign, which are all great for putting a Band-Aid on the issue and putting businesses going. And it certainly does work in terms of being able to get a document from one person to the other. But they definitely have pitfalls. When you're working with multiple programs like these, it can become difficult to keep track of your documents. You're going back and forth between different programs. Some people may be emailing documents back and forth. Documents end up in different places. And then locating documents after that can become difficult because people are naming them lots of different ways. There's not a specific naming convention in place. And then tracking access to documents is also difficult. Who did what, when, where is the document, and who should be allowed to view certain documents. So keeping paper trails in a business to see who's edited what document, what's been done, and who's seen things is important, and it can become very convoluted through some of these softwares that you'll find online. A lot of times people want to be able to audit who's seen a document, what's happened, and this makes that particularly difficult to be able to do that in the future. And then if this was not a normal filing system that you already used in your office, how are you going to reintegrate all of these files that you now have in Google Drive or Google Dropbox back into your normal working environment and filing system? So I wanted to talk about how a document management system can help your organization, especially in a time like that, but just in general. So I'm going to give the accounts payable demonstration of how DocuWare handles invoices. It can do a lot of different things in terms of documents and document storage, but this is probably the easiest way to showcase a lot of the different things that it can do. Okay, let's flip over here. So what you will see here is a virtual workstation. We've actually just joined the virtual environment of a company called Peters Engineering. This is a fictional company that manufactures and sells roller coasters, which is a great business, but does have its ups and downs. If you'll see here to the left, there's a bunch of different folks here. These are the employees of Peters Engineering, and this is going to allow us to go to these individuals' desks and sit down and see what they would see. I'm going to go to Peggy here. Peggy is in charge of accounting here at Peters Engineering. Can everybody, I just want to make sure, can everybody see okay? Okay. Awesome. So we're going to go sit down with Peggy, and we're going to go ahead and open up her Internet Explorer browser. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a cloud-based program, so you would be able to access this interface from anywhere, just logging on using your username and password credentials. So what we'll see here is kind of Peggy's interface for DocuWare. Nothing really is open right now because Peggy hasn't started her day yet, but she's going to start her day today by scanning in some invoices that she got in the mail. Now, for the purpose of this particular application, it's set up so Peggy actually has a desktop scanner sitting next to her desk, and she's loaded it up with a variety of documents that she's going to scan in. And she put them all in together, and DocuWare is actually going to scan those in and break this out. But there are different ways to get things into DocuWare, especially since a lot of people, as I said, don't have access to their normal office equipment. There's a mobile application that I'll talk about a little bit towards the end of the presentation. But you can also import things directly from email, or you can have people scan into a specific folder and have DocuWare watch that folder and pull in documents at certain time intervals. So if you wanted to have a scan folder and have DocuWare check that folder every 15 minutes, you could definitely do it that way as well. So Peggy's scanning in these invoices, and they're going to drop over here into her document tray in DocuWare. You can have as many different document trays as you want. A lot of people will have them mirror what would be on their desk, such as an ingoing tray, an outgoing tray, things of that nature. However, it is easiest for you to be able to keep track of those documents. Sorry, guys. It's wanting to lag on me. Here they go. So yeah, those documents are going to drop right over here into DocuWare, and then it's actually going to intelligently read those documents and file them away. If it wants to pull over for me. There we go. Sorry about that. My computer is struggling a little bit to run PowerPoint and Zoom and the virtual demo software. It's not something I've had to do before, so I had to learn that today. But anyways, you'll see it's processing these documents that are coming in here, and each document is going to be assigned a color at this point. And this is the artificial intelligent portion of DocuWare. A green bar to a document next to a document signifies that DocuWare knows pretty much exactly what this document is and where it came from, and it's going to be able to pull values off of it and go ahead and store that in the filing system for you. A yellow document means, I think that I've seen this document before, but maybe double check me, or there's some values missing. And then a totally new document that DocuWare never experienced before would come in as a red document, and you would have to actually train the software how to read it. So let's start out with one of these green documents here. We're going to go ahead and store it in the document accounting pool. And again, you can have as many different filing cabinets or document pools as you need for your business. If you want to sort them out by things like HR or accounting, or contracts, you can certainly do that. And the users are only going to be able to see the filing cabinets which you give them permission to see. So the HR lady would never be able to see the accounting documents and vice versa. You're only going to see what pertains to you and your job. So as you'll see here, there are several different document types here, which are the parameters for how this particular company has decided to store their documents. This is totally customizable as well. So whatever you need to be able to track for your company is what these values represent. And if you want to see, it's already filled these out and pulled them over. And if you ever want to see where it's grabbing a particular value from, you can click next to it, and it's actually going to highlight it over here on the invoice. But everything looks great. DocuWare knows what this is. It's a phone wizard invoice. These come in every month. DocuWare's used to those, so you can go ahead and store that document away. And it's going to pop you back over to your in tray. And you can go ahead and store these green documents that it recognizes as well. And store. If you've noticed, this one is for quite a bit of money, over $1 million here. So this document's the one that it needed a little bit of help with. So we're going to store it the same way in the document pool, and we're going to notice that it's actually missing a value here for the company. So you can totally type anything in that you wanted to name these, but the great thing about DocuWare and what keeps documents stored consistently is that you can actually just come over to the invoice, click and drag, and it's going to go ahead and enter that value for you. We found in early versions of the system when we were using it in our office that people would store things Storage EX, Storage Express, Storage Expert, Storage Experts Inc., and it made the documents a little bit more difficult to find. So being able to pull values directly off an invoice really cuts down on that human error factor. It looks like it's got everything else here. It wants me to double check and make sure it got everything in the right spot. But everything else looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and store this document as well. Now, if you've noticed, as we've been going along, there's been some tasks that have been coming up here, and this little bubble has been incrementing. So we talked a little bit earlier about how it's difficult to kind of keep track of your tasks as you're trying to work in a remote environment that you're not accustomed to. And this is a great way to kind of negate that. So it's assigned Peggy some tasks here, and there should be a couple more ones filing down as it processes it. There they all go. And so these are the documents that we've just stored. They're now ready for the next task for Peggy to go ahead and move them forward in the process of office approvals. You'll see down here at the bottom that this invoice is listed to pay invoice. And that's because DocuWare knows that this is a rapid transport billing. It's something they get all the time. It doesn't need to be approved by anybody. It can just go ahead and be paid. Now down here, there's going to be two options. You can either pay and say, hey, I paid this by check, and then write the check number there, or you can book it. The great thing about this particular application is that it can integrate with any SQL-based program, which is going to be most of your accounting programs that it would be able to integrate with. So you can actually book all of these values throughout a given day, export a CSV file, and then use that CSV file to be able to reconcile all of your payments at the end of the day in QuickBooks or whatever your accounting software may be. But for this one, we're going to go ahead and pay it. We're going to say that it was paid with check number 132456 and confirm. And now that document has been listed as paid in the system, and it is stored away in the filing cabinet. So now Peggy's got some other tasks here to assign cost centers to these invoices. So you'll see here she's got one for Phone Wizard, and she knows that the account for that one is going to be advertising. The cost center is going to be sales, and then it needs to be approved by sales. And she's going to go ahead and hit confirm, and that document is going to be electronically routed to the sales department, and they're going to be assigned a task just like these to be able to approve that. And I'll show you that in just a second. Here's another one. Same thing, except for this is a freight and delivery fee. Cost center is going to be manufacturing. It's going to be approved by manufacturing. This last one is from US Steel. This is going to be our materials. And you can have these be type in or drop down, these different accounts. I normally recommend doing a drop down just so everything stays really consistent throughout your system. But again, this is going to be manufacturing, and it's going to be approved by manufacturing. And confirm. So for right now, Peggy's kind of cleared up all of her tasks that were assigned to her at the moment. And we're going to move on and go see what's happening over at manufacturing. So Brian Ford, he's in charge of manufacturing. He's just been assigned 2 invoices. So we're going to actually go to his DocuWare interface and see what he sees. He's going to open up his Internet Explorer from anywhere. And you can also have these tasks be assigned to people who aren't in the office very much via email. They can open them up on their phone and quickly approve or disapprove of them as needed. I know we have a lot of people who very rarely sit in front of a computer, but that still need to approve things. So that can be a great resource for them. So Brian's got 2 tasks over here. He's got to check invoices. He looks at this invoice. He says, oh yeah, wow, that's that big $1 million invoice. But we ordered that. That's for the new roller coaster at Kings Dominion. Yeah, we do owe that. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And he says, yep, that's us as well. I'm going to go ahead and approve that one. He does also have the option here, you'll see, to reject it. And if that were to happen, it would actually go right back to Peggy. He'd give a reason for rejecting it, like not my cost center, and it would actually route directly back to Peggy so she could correctly put it in the system and start the process again. We're going to approve this one. And we're going to go back and see how that affected Miss Peggy. So we go back to Peggy here. She's got another task, but just one task, and that's the storage experts invoice. She's going to go ahead and book that to be paid later. But where's the big $1 million invoice? So one of the cool things about DocuWare is that you can actually set it up to do certain approval processes based on what it finds within an invoice. At Peters Engineering, any invoice that is over $1 million needs to be approved by the CFO, who happens to be Miss Elizabeth Cash. So Elizabeth's gotten an email that she needs to approve a document. She's going to open up her DocuWare portal. And she's going to be able to see that invoice come to her for approval in her task list. And there it is. She looks at that invoice. She says, yeah, well, that's a big one, but we do have the funds to pay that right now, so I'm going to go ahead and approve that to be paid. And if she wanted to hold that invoice and not approve it for a certain period of time based on cash flow, it's a really big invoice, she could do that as well. But today they've got the money, so they're going to pay it. And then we'll switch back one last time here to Peggy. And now that that invoice has been approved, it's going to be waiting in her task list. We're going to book that one as well. And there's a variety of things you can do with these tasks, like it can actually send you email notifications if a task sits for more than a certain period of time. Let's say you don't want tasks to go unaddressed for more than a day. It can shoot an email to the person who's supposed to do the task, and then if the person still doesn't do a task, it can actually escalate it to a manager. If you wanted to set tasks to go to a different employee, if someone was out sick, you can do that as well. And then once the documents have been filed in, it's really easy to be able to search for them. It's full text searchable as well as being able to search by these values. But let's say that right now we want to look at all of the documents that we have with the customer Flying Tom Germany. So you can actually just enter that into the search bar, and you can see all the different documents that are with Flying Tom, what kind of documents that they are, and the status of the documents as well. And there's also ways to edit these documents here. There's a full variety of tools. You can print documents, you can email them out directly from the program, you can put text or annotations on them, you can actually redact them if you wanted to, and you can have permissions as to who can edit these annotations, who can pull them off a document, anything of that nature, so that if you wanted to redact a document so that only Peggy could see underneath the redactions, but everybody else in the company saw the redaction bar, you could do that as well. So I think that's pretty much, and this is one last thing, and this is lists. If you had searches that you wanted to do very frequently and you were always looking for documents in a certain stage, like contracts that had come in but hadn't been approved yet, you can actually set up these lists to do certain search parameters so you can easily access the documents that you look at on a daily basis. But I think overall, that's the general gist of it. And so I did want to show you the mobile app. This is the way that you would mobily scan in documents to DocuWare. And normally during a demonstration, I'd pull up my phone and show this to you all, but it's a little bit hard to translate that over onto a Zoom meeting. But you can kind of see how documents are scanned in. They're automatically recognized. You can cut them out if there's background away from the background. You can scan in multiple pages and then share those documents. And then the DocuWare mobile application is going to be very much like what we just saw in the Internet Explorer application, condensed into a mobile format. You can still search for your documents in the same way. You can look at your different tasks in the document associated with them in an index card format. You can display the documents, look at them, and do the approval processes that we talked about, as well as share those documents. You can store them, and you can even intelligently index, like we did those accounts payable invoices. And then the very last thing I wanted to touch on, this is a little bit more in depth than probably just this demo, but I wanted to mention it because we have a lot of people that are using this feature to be able to help students get in their work, or patients get in their information, or onboarding new employees, but it's called DocuWare Forms. These forms are really easy to make. You can even make them in your office, and it creates a web link for people to fill it out. For example, if you wanted to have your employment applications online, DocuWare would actually take that information and save it, and when you were ready, you could overlay that information onto the I-9 for the employee, the W-4 for the employee, the emergency contacts, and all that stuff, so you're not sitting there re-entering data again and again and again. So it's really cool. Some schools have been using it for students to be able to submit their homework online and then have a consistent record of that. Lots of different applications for that. And again, it's something that we can totally build and personalize to do whatever it is that your organization needs to do. So I think that is pretty much the general gist of things. I know that you guys probably already have my information, but I've listed it here as well. If anybody has any questions or wants anything more in depth, you can definitely reach out to me via email or phone. And I'm just going to see now if anybody had any questions. Okay, so yeah, I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you guys all so much for coming. I hope to hear from you. I hope this has been informative and somewhat helpful into how a cloud document management system can allow you to remotely access your documents, may be that via internet or using your phone. Please don't hesitate to reach out with me if you have any questions, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful afternoon.